I'd like to thank you all for being here and give you a bit of insight into what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be looking at some of the common misconceptions around apprenticeships. We're going to be trying to demystify the Apprenticeship Levy and help you answer some of the questions around how you can make that levy work for you. We're really going to be looking at the techniques that apprenticeships use and why the apprenticeship model of training is such a valuable one for employers and for employees. What's in it for the learners? What's in it for you? So, I think with that, we are going to kick off properly with a little bit of an introduction. So, the voice you can currently hear, this is me. This is the face that matches the voice. I come from a background of HR and in particular learning and development. So training, working with people to help them realise their full potential in their careers is my absolute passion. I have worked on designing, delivering and assessing training on a global scale with organisations such as Booking.com, and I've delivered training on various different continents to a whole range of different audiences. So that's my background, and that's why you are stuck with me today. I've joined Cambridge Spark because it delivers a product I am hugely passionate about. And this is a bit more background about us. So we're leaders in personalised data science and software engineering training. Our team consists of PhDs from the top universities in the world, with backgrounds in world-renowned machine learning organisations. We believe that the way of educating the next generation of professionals in technology is currently broken. There's a skill set mismatch between higher education and industry needs. Potentially something that you guys on this webinar have experienced. In addition, educational methods are not utilising the latest advances in research and technology. There is so much going on that can be applied to training, to learning and development, and we believe it should be. Cambridge Spark sets itself apart by providing a solution through applied relevant skills, really practical, highly personalised, data-driven learning. It's a data science training concept built by data science. It is data-driven. And it's a work simulated platform, which we'll refer to as Kate. So we'll come back to Kate in a bit more detail later, but we can use it for talent attraction. We can use it for skills assessment. We use it for developing new skills and also supporting career progression. So that's what Cambridge Spark is all about. And that's why I'm so proud to be part of the team here. I'm supporting apprentices. I'm supporting a EdTech organisation, and we're doing amazing things. I love it. So, if you are still with me, who is this for? Hopefully you are one of these people. So hopefully you are either someone who wants to understand what on earth an apprenticeship is, someone who wants to understand what is this apprenticeship levy, why are they taking my money, and what can I do with it? So people who want to use that apprenticeship levy, you know it, you understand it, it's now a substantial part of your L&D budget, so how are you going to make use of it? And also people who want to support early careers talent within their organisation. It is a key demographic for apprentices, not the only demographic, but hopefully you're joining us today. What I also want to say before we go much further is that chat function, please use it to send in any questions. So I've got a colleague here who's helping me. They're going through the questions that you ask and they're going to be putting them to me. So hopefully it won't just be my voice during this presentation. I'm going to start with some data. We are a data science organisation anyway. Learning interventions have increased productivity by 14% in 2018. In the last 7 years, learning innovation consistently delivered a 9% improvement in outcomes, leading to growth, productivity, transformation, and profit. So this is data this is information that came out in February 2019, so it's hot off the press, and it shows impact that learning and development can have within an organisation and what staying up to date on best practice, latest in EdTech, can do to make real, tangible business outcomes for your organisation. I'm going to start with myth busting, because apprenticeships do still have an image problem. You still hear a lot of misconceptions, and I know when I tell people I work with apprentices, there are a lot of stereotypes that they hit me with. So hopefully you are already enlightened and these do not apply to you. But things I hear a lot are that apprenticeships are a thing of the past. They are medieval. Isn't that what people used to do in Victorian England? Also that they're only for young people. Couldn't be an apprentice. I'm over the age of 18. They're vague. You know, this concept that an apprentice is just a person who is in your business and does whatever you tell them, and there's not really any structure to their development pathway. Again, completely wrong. That apprentices are only in trades or manual work, or that it's only for entry level, people who are just joining your organisation. All of this is incorrect. So if this is the image you have in your mind right now, I'm going to wait for it, then hopefully today's session is going to prove that this is not correct. And in fact, we are going to show you that modern apprenticeships look something more like the next image you're about to see. So creative, dynamic, diverse, engaging, practical, relevant. So a quote that actually was from an article I read this week as part of National Apprenticeship Week. Although they remain important, apprenticeships are no longer just about developing technical or vocational skills for a specific profession. So you will see that there are now apprenticeships which are the equivalent of an MBA. You can do a whole range of skills. And if the skill that you want in your organisation, if that profession isn't captured on the list of apprenticeship standards currently available, there's capacity for you as an employer to become part of what's called a trailblazer group to help shape that new apprenticeship role. So a bit more about the practicalities of what on earth is an apprenticeship. Well, it's a long-term vocational learning program, and it incorporates day-to-day employment. And this is really, really important to an apprenticeship. There is off-the-job learning, and then it's immediately applied, and the learning, the things that are going on in the workplace equally count to the assessment and the qualification itself. So just by doing your job, you are carrying out part of an apprenticeship. The range of levels, it ranges from level 2, which is the equivalent of a GCSE, right up to level 7, which is the equivalent of a master's. And you can find apprenticeships for a whole range of subjects on that range of levels. Apprentices can and are any age. You do not have to be 16 to 18. You can be someone who is very established in their career, who opts to become an apprentice. The thing about apprenticeships is that they are directly relevant to the job the apprentice is carrying out. So it is not disconnected in any way. It's part of the job, it's part of the experience that they're developing. An employer can collaborate with external training providers to deliver learning. They can also choose to do it themselves, but for reasons I'm going to go into in a couple of slides' time, you'll see why that might not be the right route for everyone. The most distinctive elements of an apprenticeship are that there must be 20% off the job training. So this is 20% of the time that the apprentice is on programme, on that apprenticeship, must be spent not doing their job, but doing learning connected to their job. It must be off the job. Typically, employers will opt for every fifth day is a learning day. However, there is a lot of flexibility in this model. Some providers will work with employers to do all of the off-the-job training in blocks up front and weight it. The model that we actually have is incredibly flexible so that that 20% off the job learning can be fitted in around the apprentice's schedule. We found this works really well because not everyone has a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. And if your apprentice is required to go into college or have dedicated learning hours, it can reduce that flexibility. Apprenticeships are government accredited and co-funded. So that money you're putting into the Apprenticeship Levy, the government's also topping it up by 10%. And there is an endpoint assessment, which I'm going to keep coming back to because it's really key to how apprenticeships work and why they are such a distinctive learning proposition. But remember, an apprenticeship is assessed. There is a qualification at the end of it. So this is a really handy diagram that I found, and it shows you how apprenticeships on the right fit in against other qualifications on the left. So just to kind of give you an idea that apprenticeships can be any educational level on this scale. Another quote for you, and this dates back to 2012. And I think it's really important because it informs the strategy that we have for apprenticeships and the system we have for today. So apprenticeships need to be high quality training with serious kudos and tangible value both to the apprentice and the employer. This is the foundation of the apprenticeship structure and model that we have. So this levy, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the fact that employers with a salary bill of 3 million or more will have 0.5% held in the levy pot. The government will add an additional 10% to this, and it's held separate, it's there, and it's specifically for apprenticeships. Only trainers or employers on the register of apprenticeship training providers can deliver training and claim funding from the ESFA. So there are employers who are accredited to deliver their own apprenticeships internally. Additionally, training providers have to go through a very stringent process, and currently they're being asked to reapply for an even more stringent process to be able to say that they provide significant quality apprenticeships that meet the standards to be able to access that government funding. Trainers who are apprenticeship providers are government funded and therefore government assessed teaching organisations, the same as any school. And with that in mind, Ofsted, yep, the same Ofsted that goes and checks your schools, checks your universities, also checks your apprenticeship training providers. So you know that there is that quality check going on. Trust me, it's very rigorous. We also have apprenticeships themselves. So the work that each apprentice does is assessed by an external endpoint assessment organisation. The trainer can't assess their own apprenticeship. It's the same as you can't mark your own homework, right? So the quality of training has to be sufficiently high for that training provider to have a sufficiently high pass rate to remain an apprenticeship training provider. For reference, an endpoint assessment organisation that Cambridge Spark works with is BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT. Apprenticeships must follow the standards outlined by the Institute for Apprenticeships. So if you're ever wondering, what can I offer as an apprenticeship? There is a full list of them on the Institute for Apprenticeship website. Definitely go for it. And what you'll find there are apprenticeship standards. These are a list of everything that will be part of that apprenticeship. You may hear about frameworks. Frameworks are an old thing. There are some apprentices who are still doing them. It's not something you should be offered. It's not something that is part of this new, rigorous apprenticeship system. And the other thing about the levy is that money, no matter how much we would love to use it for all kinds of training initiatives, it must be spent on apprenticeships. And apprenticeships have to meet very specific criteria. However, as we've already said, it doesn't mean you can't use that money to upskill your existing workforce. You absolutely can. Did you know of that levy? In the 2017-18 financial year, eligible employers spent just 9% of available funds on new apprenticeships. This does mean they accessed a hefty £191 million, but that's out of £2.2 billion of levy funding and government top-up which was available. So there is a lot of money which is currently going unspent. The consequences of this are twofold. First of all, if you're not spending it, it's wasted money. And if you don't spend it within 2 years, it will be lost. It won't be sat there waiting for you anymore. The other thing is, if you're not using it, someone else is going to use it in a different organisation. And strongly recommend that you are not the employer who goes to that pool of funding and finds that other people have beaten you to it and there's no money left. So I strongly encourage all of you to find a way to use that levy funding to support your workforce. So why have we got to this situation where the levy is being taken and why it has to be spent on apprenticeships? Well, I think we know that there is a big skills gap in the UK, and employers are consistently reporting that there is a shortage of skilled workers across multiple specialisms. We have the highest level of employment in the UK for decades. There aren't enough people with the right skills to go around. We have criticism of the one-size-fits-all GCSE, A-level, degree, academic route. It doesn't suit everyone. I think there's an Einstein quote, which is to do with if you try and judge a fish by its ability to ride a bicycle, it's not going to get very far. That can be the same for our educational system. On the whole, it's pretty good. It's not adapted to the diverse range of learners that we've got. We've got a lack of work experience in school leavers, and this is something you may well have found through your recruitment and hiring, that people leave school and they've been coached to pass exams. They've been given a lot of information in a very structured environment, which doesn't actually equip them with the realities of working in a workplace. They may not have the resilience, they may not have the innovative approach that you're looking for. Your apprentices absolutely will, because they're learning in your workplace. There is evidence consistently since the 60s that learning while doing, or experiential learning, increases the transfer of learning from classroom to the workplace. For those of you who are L&D nerds, think about Kolb's learning cycle. It's all to do with practically using those skills rather than keeping them in a classroom in a textbook. That's how you're going to derive maximum value from the learning. This supports career change, which is increasingly necessary with our diverse workforce. So apprenticeships can be for people who are returning to work after a break. They can be for people who haven't been through the conventional academic route or have identified it's not for them. Let's be realistic, tuition fees are a massive deterrent to certain demographics. Also, expectations, cultural expectations. Some people really aren't in a mindset where you have to follow that route. They want to be more entrepreneurial. They want to be learning and earning at the same time. So think about how apprenticeships can work for people who've had a career break. Maybe they've been carers, maybe they've been parents, maybe they have been working in one sector and they want to transfer skills into another sector. They bring experience and common sense that you couldn't find elsewhere, and you want to capitalize on that by making them skilled in a new profession. So, did you know that 87% of employers that BCS spoke to said that they plan to use apprenticeships specifically to fill their IT skills gaps? We're going to look at the tech problem, the tech skills gap, which is why Cambridge Spark exists and why apprenticeships are such a great solution. Currently, the European Union estimates that there is a shortage of 346,000 data scientists due by next year. 2020 is not as far away as it sounds. IBM has also reported that data science roles will account for 28% of all roles by 2020. That doesn't mean that every fourth person in your organization is going to be a data scientist as their job title. What that means is think about your own role. Those of you who are working in HR or L&D, how much data are you having to gather to determine return on investment? How are you having to look at your people data? What is your recruitment strategy doing? You are already using some of the data science principles. This is only going to increase, and we want to equip people with the best techniques to be able to address that skills gap. So how do apprenticeships connect to this tech skills gap? Well, the stats on the skills gap between tech professionals and the demand show, just as we've seen, how this is going to keep increasing unless we bring new solutions to the existing workforce. We also are increasingly having to think about the expectations of millennials and Gen X, who are almost a third of the workforce now. So by looking at what they're interested in, which is definitely career development, the opportunity to learn, you are future-proofing your business, and you're also increasing your ability to attract new talent and build your employer brand by engaging with this type of learning. You can upskill your existing workforce to perform even better in their roles, and by doing this, by investing in your people, you're going to increase employee engagement and therefore employee retention, as well as employee productivity. We know there is a massive productivity gap in the UK, so do everything you can to make your business stronger against it. The methods of teaching delivery really work with employment. Conventional classroom doesn't always work, especially for people who are technically minded. Technical professionals, it seems a very strange idea to take them to a classroom, have someone standing at the front teaching them, give them a workbook and make them do exercises. What you need is something where they can code, where they can practice using the tools that they're going to use on a day-to-day. It's got to be practical. And you've got to simulate the work that they're going to do. The best transfer of learning happens when people are practicing on projects and cases which are directly aligned, directly relevant to what they do on a day-to-day basis. So that's why certainly our model of training data science is incredibly practical, very project-based, and really grounded in experiential learning. Which brings us on to, in a bit more detail, what we have chosen to do, what Cambridge Spark has decided to do to support apprentices and to support employers in closing that skills gap. One of the best examples of what we're already doing, we are working with a large established employer who has a significant amount of their budget taken as part of the Apprenticeship Levy and have been looking how can they use it to align with their internal L&D strategy. So their objective was they wanted to use us to power their internal data science academy. I'm going to say right now, it's all fully branded to them. It's known that we are supporting it. It's very much a partnership. The specifications that we were given for this particular client were that we had to embed and enable technical talent assessment, development, and career progression within that organisation. So that's what we were supporting. And we needed to enable the employer to embrace new data-driven capabilities. It's got to be cutting-edge theories, cutting-edge technology. It's got to keep them bang up to date. And we're working with their employees to make sure the skills they're using are absolutely the latest. Got to develop a structured upskilling strategy to extract maximum value from data science. So they don't just want to learn the theory, they want to apply it directly to business results as they're learning. They want to develop and implement this internal data science capacity building program. So they're owning it. It's not sending people off out. It's very much in their organisation. It's part of their offering. So what are we bringing to it? I mentioned earlier Kate. Now, Kate is our project-based platform where people are working on cases, they're engaging with data, they're practicing tools, they are using it to code. It's really a real simulation of what they're doing in the workplace. It's a safe environment for them to learn, experiment, and get real-time feedback. So it's a perfect learning environment matched directly to the skills we want our learners to acquire. The additional advantage for you guys on this call, not the apprentice, who's obviously getting a great experience, but having worked as an L&D manager myself, what I love about Kate is that you get full transparency of what your learners are doing. So you can see how they're engaging with those projects. You can see where they're at, their progress updates, and all of this is in real time on the dashboard. Again, it allows you as an employer to support them throughout the apprenticeship. You've got access to the kind of data that you really don't get very often about, well, what is the value of this training? What are the outcomes? You're seeing them happen and you've got the data there ready to go to your finance department and show this is the return on investment here. The other thing I mentioned that I think Cambridge Spark are doing quite differently to a lot of other apprenticeship providers is we really want our learning to be flexible. It's a remote delivery system using that dashboard, using Kate, apologies. It means that the learners can log in and access it whenever they want. So that 20% off the job training doesn't have to be in a solid block. Every Tuesday is training day and we must go to college. It could be a half day here, it could be a half day there, and it fits around the business needs and it fits around their needs as well. If they're taking a week's holiday, well, do double the week before or double the week after. It's great. It's super flexible and it supports the flexibility that you have within your workforce. So what else is Cambridge Spark doing? Well, we've just seen that we use the data science AI-powered platform, which teaches data science. We're data scientists who built a data science platform which uses data science to teach data scientists. You'll see a theme. We know what we're on about here, and we believe in it. We use subject matter expert tutors to provide a human support. It's not entirely on screen. And the tutors that we use are incredibly experienced. They are normally PhD level data scientists, often with a lot of high quality work experience. We are supporting career conversion. We are supporting upskilling and reskilling through boot camps. This is something we've been doing for, well, since we originated. This was the original project or product, was delivering boot camps that offer career conversion. Our offering has grown as our capabilities have grown, and that's why we've moved into apprenticeships as well as other forms of corporate training. So we're very innovative, not just in the tech, but also in the education and learning theory and skills that we're applying there. We're working with employers, as you've just seen, to create in-house data academies, and we offer a flexible modular approach, so we can tailor the content as long as it aligns to the specification. We can align that together and add in different modules that still meet the same needs, different projects that meet your needs as an employer, and we've got that remote learning anytime. And we've got some comprehensive employer support, which I want to go into a bit more detail for you as well. Whether or not you decide to go with us or a different apprenticeship training provider, I want you to kind of think about what questions you're asking. How is that training provider going to work with and for you? So here's how we do it, even before apprentices start on a program. What we would say is that we work with the employer right from the very beginning, and we have a clear track record throughout. We also have a very structured approach. I mentioned it's modular. So with the particular data science training we offer, we can interchange which modules, and each module is followed by a learner survey. Throughout the whole program, learners have access to Kate, to practice on live projects, to work and get that immediate feedback. They're also building a portfolio of projects through Kate and through what they're doing in the workplace. We support that with quarterly group presentations where we will meet with the apprentices, check in, offer an in-depth skills session. Part of the apprenticeship structure is to deliver functional skills. Now, most people at the higher levels already working with you will already have GCSE, maths and English or equivalent. If they don't, it's part of our job as a training provider to make that available to them, and it is a requirement of passing that endpoint assessment that apprentices are able to demonstrate they have GCSE equivalent maths and English functional skills. Other exams that are currently part of the standard specification, so for the typical data science approach, this would be BCS knowledge exam and the Dell EMC data science exam. We also are responsible for coordinating with you as employers to make sure they happen. We are accredited assessors and invigilators for both functional skills and the BCS knowledge exam. You'll see on here that it also talks about the gateway assessment. So this is before we put them into that endpoint assessment. Apprentices must have been on program for at least 1 year and 1 day. Then there is a series of questions, checks that you want to look at and make sure that everything is ready to go and that you are confident you've got the evidence needed to get through that endpoint assessment and for that apprentice to pass. Most apprenticeships take a couple of years. The model that we offer should take less than 14 months. But obviously we can adapt this to your needs as an organisation. The endpoint assessment structure, and as I mentioned earlier, this is completely removed from the training provider themselves. So this is a standard process which will be seen across every apprenticeship. Different apprenticeships will have slightly different endpoint assessments, but irrespective of which provider you take for a data science level 4 apprenticeship, this is what you'll be looking at doing. So before Gateway, you've got to check that you've got all that evidence I mentioned and select a project and agree a project date. You will have to have the apprentice work on a live practical project which is set by the endpoint assessors. We then ask, sorry, we don't ask anything. We make sure we've got all the evidence, and then Cambridge Spark are actually the ones who upload all that information to BCS, the endpoint assessors. And we do that at least 10 working days before the start of the project. We get it all signed and confirmed. BCS will review the evidence that we've provided, and this will include a portfolio of work that the apprentice has done throughout the year. There's then a synoptic project, which is assessed by BCS, and that will take 3 to 5 working days. There's then an interview, one-to-one with that apprentice and their assessor. This checks any skills gaps. So the portfolio of evidence shows what they have been working on. The project shows what they can do. And the interview shows any additional information. It shows how they approach it. It shows the behaviors and attitudes that they've learned in addition to the practical skills. So it's a very holistic overview. There's one other element of the endpoint assessment, and that's the employer reference. And that's something that we and any good apprenticeship provider should work with you throughout the program to make sure you know what information should be going into that. You're gathering relevant examples to give your apprentice the best opportunity to pass. It almost certainly connects to what you're doing as everyday performance management in line manager meetings, appraisal processes. It should be that the information is there. Any additional support you need, we can offer, as could any good training provider. And then the grading and certification all comes from BCS. It's all verified. It's something that is external, and your apprentice at the end of this program is incredibly qualified. They should be very proud of their achievement and have a very clear understanding of what they've learnt and what value they add to the business as a result of this training program. So that's why apprenticeships are distinct from other training programs and really high value, high return on investment for you guys. So to conclude, I've been talking for a long while. Apprenticeships can be for early careers, or they can be for experienced talent within your business. Apprenticeships blend theory and experiential learning. The levy funding, you're paying it, it's there to be used, and there are some really practical ways to do this to add value to your business and really engage your employees. There are a wide range of apprenticeship standards and training providers. Cambridge Spark specialise in digital, but you could look at leadership apprenticeships. There's so many other things out there. And make sure you are interviewing that training provider, you're checking that they're going to work with you in the way that suits you. They should be adaptable. We certainly endeavour to be. Talk to them, make it work. The benefits for your business include increased productivity, excellent, talent retention, saves you having to go through that recruitment process so much, and diversity. Think about the broad range of people you can attract using the levy. And with that, I would like to say thank you all very much. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to send them through on the messenger, on the chat. Alternatively, please do get in touch with us. Our contact details are on the screen in front of you. So give us a call, drop us an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, always happy to answer any questions you have and talk about how you can make that apprenticeship levy work for your organisation. Thank you.